Presentation of dialogue on Idaho Public Television is made possible through the generous support of the Laura Moore Cunningham Foundation, committed to fulfilling the Moore family's legacy of building the great state of Idaho.
They've had to flee their countries for safety. Now they're in Idaho trying to start a new life. But memories are never far away. Coming up, we talk with former refugees about the joys and challenges of life in America. That's Dialogue next. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome to Dialogue. I'm Marcia Franklin. As we begin our new year, some residents of the Gem State are beginning new lives. More than 5,000 refugees from all over the world have come to Idaho in the past 5 years, mostly to Boise and Twin Falls. They're some of the nearly 75,000 refugees that the U.S. government resettles in our country every year. And today on Dialogue, I'm pleased to be joined by 4 refugees who now call Idaho home. Fidel Inshombo is from the Democratic Republic of Congo and arrived here in 2006 after an arduous 10-year journey through many African countries. He's the author of 2 books, Route to Peace and Route to Peace 2, and is one of only 60 delegates in the country to a new National Refugee Congress. Welcome, Fidel.
Thank you very much.
I'm also pleased to introduce Jamuna Gautam. Jamuna arrived in Boise in 2008. She was born in Bhutan but spent 15 years in a refugee camp in Nepal. Today she's a student at Boise State University. It's so nice to have you here.
Thank you.
Also joining us is Hosai Nassimi. Hosai, who's originally from Afghanistan, came to Boise in 2002 after spending years as a refugee in Pakistan. A graduate of Boise State University, Hosai was the president of the Muslim Student Association there. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Also with us is Rasul Musa Bryant. Rasul arrived in Boise in 2009 from Iraq via Jordan, where she spent several years as a refugee. She had been a translator for an American contractor in Iraq. Today she's a case manager for the Agency for New Americans, which helps refugees resettle here. Welcome to you.
Thank you.
Now, my guests today will talk about what it's been like to come to Idaho, what their positive experiences have been, and also where they see some unmet needs for refugees. How about you? Are you a refugee or do you work with refugees? What are your thoughts about the resettlement program in our country? Give us a call, toll-free, at 1-800-973-9800. First to you, Jamuna, I wanted to start with you because 2/3 of all the refugees coming into the United States right now have been either Bhutanese, which you are, or Burmese, and Idaho is no exception to that. We have a map of your country, and I want to say beginning in 2008, which is the year you arrived here, more than 250 Bhutanese began coming to Idaho, and in 2009, 376 Bhutanese people came to Idaho. That was the largest ethnic group coming to this state. I know I had to be educated on this. We think of Bhutan as a peaceful country. They measure their success in terms of happiness, not gross domestic product. I think a lot of people know that. But you lived in a refugee camp in Nepal for 15 years. There were 22,000 people in that camp, and there were 7 of those types of camps. Yep. Why are there so many Bhutanese people in refugee camps in Nepal? What happened?
Early 1990s and late 1880s, most of the people from southern Bhutan, they flew to Nepal because of the religious crisis in Bhutan. Bhutan is known as a Buddhist country, and people from the south are Nepalese and they are Hindu.
Which is you?
Yeah, that's
okay.
me. And my parents, at the time I was only the year-old baby, and they had to come to Nepal to save our life, because if they do not leave Bhutan on the time they said, maybe they will just force them to put in jail or killed. They have seen so many that kind of sin, so that's why, because of the religious crisis, they have to fly back to
So it's
Nepal.
kind of a civil war in a way between Buddhist and Hindu.
Actually, it's the government of Bhutan and the Hindu.
Okay.
Those who live in southern.
Now, we'll talk about what the camp was like in a moment, but how did you find out you were going to Boise? Did they just give you a ticket one day?
No, we came from camp. We flew to Kathmandu, which is the capital of Bhutan. Nepal. Where they have IUM office, which one is Organization for Immigration, and we did the orientation and they just told us like, hey, we were going to Boise and we have no idea where it is. And we just said, okay, and we are here. But we have no knowledge about Boise when we were in Nepal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll find out in a little bit what you thought of Boise. But I wanted to show a picture of a very special person who is from Boise. Her name is Kristen. And she's special because she was the volunteer assigned to work with you, just coincidentally. And you became very close. And for your graduation gift from Boise High School, she gave you a very special present, wasn't it? What was that present?
That present was that I got the ticket to go back to Nepal to see my family and friend, which one is awesome.
And you just came back about a week ago, I think.
Yeah.
And we have some pictures of the camp. And what was it like to go back after these years to see?
After 4 years, I've been there, and it was like, I can't even express how I felt when I was there. It was totally different, and everybody was there, like, so surprised to see me because I never told them that I'm coming back.
This is a typical kitchen here.
It is.
You can see, yeah.
Yeah, and that's the kitchen, like, where we cooked our food.
Yeah. Yeah, and so you were able to see friends for the first time?
Yep, for the first time, and I met my childhood friend after 5 years.
Okay, I think we have a picture of her too. Yeah, very emotional, and this is the inside of the house is very small.
They are like very small.
Right.
And
no running water.
No running water. You have to go and get water at least walk for 5 minutes to get the water tape to get the clean water.
So here your friends are meeting with you.
Yeah.
Very emotional time for you, and
True.
and here's your best friend. You get to see her, but she's still in the camp.
She's still in camp.
Yeah,
and
so they're still waiting.
Yeah.
So, and we have to say as well that your friend Kristen, along with her other friends, has helped you in another way, right, with your education.
Yeah, for true.
So you've met some nice people.
It's my pleasure or honor to meet Kristen, and I'm so glad that we're friends, and she's helping me, and I'll never gonna forget that what she's doing right now too.
So you've had a good experience here in Boise.
Yep.
Great, and I think your dad just got a job too, which is congratulations to him.
Okay.
Fidel, wanted to talk to you a little bit. You come from the Democratic Republic of Congo originally, but as I mentioned in my introduction, you spent many years, 10 years, as a refugee in many other countries in Africa. Very briefly, and we have a map of the Democratic Republic of Congo, why did you have to flee at the age of 12?
The Congo has been under dictatorship for a long time. And in 1996, the rebels groups came to topple the government. And after they toppled the government and took power, they also failed to maintain peace and stability. They divided between themselves and created several groups of rebel groups between themselves, disagreed.
So your group was...
Yeah, and divided. The country ended up being divided in two. So I and my family lived in the east, where we got stuck with the rebels. And each day or every couple of days, there will be troubles and violence in the city.
And one day you came home and nobody was there.
And one day I came home and there was nobody home, and ran to the church, and the church got attacked, and just managed to run with another group of children and found myself thousands of miles away from home.
Now, I can't imagine 10 years. I cannot imagine 10 years on the street, in jungles, in camps, crossing into countries without the proper papers, not knowing the language. Your poems, as I mentioned, you've written 2 books. Your poems give us a really vivid description and sometimes very horrifying description into that time. It's maybe not fair to ask you this question, but what was the hardest for you? Was it the physical? Was it the mental? Was it the emotional? What was it not knowing anything about your family? What was the hardest?
During the times of running and running around, the hardest part was just trying to get to the next place, because you always think that the next city will be better than where you come from. And that movement, every few months you have to move and chase another dream, another place where you think life is better, where peace will be found.
Did you think you would die?
That's the hardest. The fear of death always in your mind. That's why you keep running, trying to avoid it. So you keep running, trying to stay alive, because you know a delay means death.
And what did you think, did you think your family was dead?
Yeah, after 2 years, I had no more hope in my family. So the first 2 years, I was missing them when I was in the camp. But 2 years later, I just assumed they were dead, and I just started living as an orphan.
So when you were told that you were coming to Boise, Idaho, I'm sure you didn't know anything about it either. You have kind of a funny story. When you were in the airport coming here as a refugee, you showed somebody your ticket to come to Boise, and what did she say to you?
Yeah, I saw somebody in New York my ticket, trying to know where I'm going, the place where I'm going, and she looked at it and stared me in the eyes and told me, "You are going to die." And I was frightened again because I'm running from death, and I said, "Why?" And she said, "You are going in a village, and it's very, very cold there, and it's just so terrible that you're not gonna survive more than a year. So once you get there, give me a call." She gave me her number and said, I'll send you money and you can come to Texas and live with me and work for me." And I came here frightened, knowing that I was gonna die.
You're still with us.
And now I'm still with you, and I love this place more than any other place I would ever have been. So
And
I'm
the
glad for
fabulous news was that once you were here, after you were here for a while, you got word that your family was in fact alive.
Yeah, just a year later, I found my younger brother and younger sister, and a year after that, they found my mom and few other siblings. And today, we've managed to find everybody. So.
And in 2010, you were able to go back.
Yes, 2010
to
I
see
went
your
back.
family. What an amazing, amazing thing.
Yeah,
I mean,
great
I can't
reunion.
imagine the emotion.
It was hard. Everything happened fast, just like everything happened like a dream. It's just like a movie. And when I returned here, that's when I realized that it was real, and I started missing them again. But it was a lot of emotion, a lot of crying.
And they had survived how? By going to another country?
Yeah, they now live in Uganda, but they also had their own stories separated in different kind of groups as they came reunited. So they have their stories even harder than mine at some point, especially my younger sister and brother. They suffered even more than I did.
Well, we'll talk a little bit about your experiences in Idaho in a moment, but I wanted to mention that you too have had some guardian angels here who've helped you publish your books, and even a woman who goes to visit your family. Yes?
Yes, I met some wonderful people in Boise who have surrounded me and advised me and mentored me. And they've also helped me open a website, which is a non-profit, to raise money to support my younger brother and sisters in Uganda with their education, rent, and food and medical needs. And I met, and that family is Ruth York and Keith York, and Andrea and Alex. They adopted two wonderful kids. And I have another family from here, the Doucet, Peggy and Jim Doucet. They travel to Uganda every 6 months.
Every 6 months and see your family.
And see my family, and they give medical attention to my mom and my younger sisters and brothers. So it's been a blessing throughout.
So you never needed to go to Texas for that job?
I never needed. It would have been a huge mistake leaving this wonderful place.
Jose, you've been here the longest. You came after September 11th in 2002 from Afghanistan. As I mentioned, you were in Pakistan for a couple of years. We have a map as well of where Afghanistan is. Why were there Afghan refugees living and still are in Pakistan? Why did you have to leave? Was it because of the Taliban?
I would say the civil war that started, not necessarily called Taliban, it was other groups that basically with civil war that started. Taliban came later, I believe around 2005 or something, I don't remember exactly. Yeah, basically civil war was what pretty much forced everybody to leave because all the business were shut down and the schools were shut down. Nobody had a source of a means of food and nothing. There was no future for anyone. So.
And I assume you, like the rest, didn't know where Boise, Idaho was. What were your first impressions of coming here? I know, Fidel, you've said it was so much quieter than you expected from seeing the movies.
Yeah, I also got the same stereotype. I got some people who told me, like in the airport as well, they were Afghans, they were like, we're not going there. They changed their mind from Chicago airport and they went to California. They said, we're changing our ticket, we're not going there, then they can't force us. But the good thing about, personally, when I look back, is I was like just open to anything. I said, I just want to go somewhere, make a future. I didn't care. In fact, I didn't care if I was going to go to United States or some other country. I just wanted to be in a place where I could find a future. So it was kind of peaceful for me to accept whatever was there.
And you graduated high school here. You graduated Boise State University.
Yes, I graduated Boise High School and Boise State University.
Yeah, but that's not to say that there haven't been trials, challenges for you. You do wear head covering, and that's important to you. Have you experienced any hardships because of that?
I did, definitely. I considered taking it off in the beginning when after I started wearing it in senior year of high school. So I didn't use to cover in the beginning because I was too scared. And then after I did cover, I considered to take it off because I was still scared.
Scared of?
Scared of stereotypes, scared of being titled certain things that I'm not. And
like a terrorist or something?
Yes, exactly. And scared of having an identity that was not me, But I'm blessed because I fought it well by the grace of God, that I was just strong and I believed in myself, and I said I am who I am, and I know I believed in that. And till today, I mean, some people, when they ask me, some other young Muslim girls, how did you do it? We want to do it as well. I just tell them, just try to focus on yourself. Don't look around too much, and just be strong within yourself, and you can be who you are.
Nevertheless, sometimes people treat you differently, don't they, when they're speaking to you, or if you're with somebody else who's not got a head covering?
Yeah. I get the assumption that I don't know English. I can't speak English, or I probably don't know much about, life or something. So I do have to put some extra effort to identify who I am, and got questioned. In fact, I got even, a teacher got puzzled by me one day saying, where are you really from? Because I would ask question in the class, and I told her I'm from Afghanistan. She's like, really? She was very surprised, and she told me, she said, I thought girls were not allowed to talk down there. I looked at her and said, girls are a creature that they're always loud and they want to talk and they're outgoing, so it doesn't make a difference where are you from.
And you've been back, yes?
Yes, I have been.
And big changes there?
Yeah, it's, I think the way I would identify it is when I left it, it was something else, and it is something else now.
Oh.
So I just want to keep the memory of what my country was and who I was. That identity is different than what it is now when I go back.
A little bit disappointing. Rasul, you are the newest person at this table to come to Idaho. You came from Iraq. You were working for a contractor as a translator, so you already knew English, but it became very dangerous to have that position, yes?
Yes.
And there are other translators who've been harmed because of working with the American government. I mean, you wouldn't probably be here if the United States hadn't entered Iraq at all.
That's absolutely true. It's one of the factors that has an advantage and a little bit disadvantage. In 2003, right after the invasion, I actually graduated from software engineering in 2004.
I think we have some pictures of you in your college class.
Yes. I did not have the chance to get a proper graduation because of the war. The only way that I had, there were no more fields for women and females to work, especially in a computer field. In my time in 2004, the open doors were for American companies. Because of my English, I started working as an interpreter for American companies in there. The downside for that, I started getting some threats from other entities, from other militias and groups who do not believe in progress, who believe that a woman, especially a woman, a female Iraqi Muslim working for American companies, can be called as an infidel, among other names. I started receiving some threats who were, at the beginning, they were settled, then they start being more aggressive. That reached to the point my family and me start fearing for our lives. And that led me to flee the country in 2006. And I left and I lived in Jordan. I stayed in Jordan for 3 years.
Like a lot of refugees do in Jordan and Syria, and kind of a stop-off place. An amazing story, a side story, but not so much of a side story now, is that you met a man when you were in Jordan who then became your husband, who is an American.
Yes.
And you still entered this country as a refugee, but
Yes.
when he found out that you were going to be coming to Boise, he's from Seattle area originally. He had some thoughts about that, didn't he?
Yes, I actually received my papers before a week from the travel date, and they handed us the papers in Arabic. So in Arabic, it was written, actually, the name Boise was written in Arabic, and the way it was written was Bothe. And my knowledge, I have no idea where's that place. I immediately took the paper to my husband back and like, Bothe, we are going to Bothe. And he looked at me, there is no city called Bothe in the United States. And then
he figured it out.
He figured it out, and then he had some concerns because he was an American, he did not live in Boise, Idaho. He did have a little bit concerns, but when we arrived here, the openness and welcome people who welcomed us changed all our minds and changed our thoughts of even leaving to go back to Seattle. And here we are,
And now
almost
you still-
3 years, settled, having jobs, living,
Yeah, he was
and
so
loving
concerned.
the
He was
city.
going. He was so concerned. He's going to pick you up, and
The
take
next
emergency
day.
leave from work, pick you up, and take you
Exactly,
to Seattle. And
exactly.
you're still here. Now you work.
Here
We
we are.
only have about. It goes so fast. We have about 7 minutes left. You work for a refugee agency now, Agency for New Americans.
Yes.
And I want to open up this discussion a little bit and talk about some of the major challenges that refugees face that you see as a caseworker that you all have experienced as refugees. I assume one of them is that you're given only 8 months to become self-sufficient in the United States. Many people may not realize this, 8 months. Is that one of the biggest challenges?
Yes, it is one of the biggest challenges as coming to the country and having this cash assistant for 8 months, and then you feel after 8 months, what are you going to do after that? And that's when the real challenge starts.
Because jobs are difficult to come by. There's some
The language is
the biggest
barriers,
challenge.
yeah.
Language is the biggest challenge. Now, there are some classes to learn
so
English.
you have to. It's like you have to get a job, learn English, get adjusted to the city, get all your paperwork, your documents. If you have to go to school, get all your school documents. So you have more than 20 things to do in 8 months. So and that's become so hard, especially this time when everybody's struggling for a job.
And you have to pay back your airplane ticket, which many people do not realize. You have
Yeah.
to pay
Right,
back your
yes.
ticket to come here. And we must say that overlying all of this, or underlying all of this, is trauma. I mean, most refugees are traumatized in some respect. And you, Fidel, you've been very open about the fact that you completely broke down after a while, after a time of being here because everything was coming to you.
Yeah, everything was going so fast. I was riding a bicycle in winter, going to work back and forth every day. So struggling with that, and then
And some
still didn't know what to do.
discrimination,
A lot of discrimination in the first year at work. I had to fight my way in to be accepted by some of the people I was working with. So all that came together with my problems back home. I had a nervous breakdown, and I ended up in a psychiatric hospital, and where I spent a couple weeks for treatment.
And it's the writing. Somebody finally suggested to
For
write
sure.
down your thoughts.
Yeah, a pastor.
That has helped you.
A pastor, Pastor Donald. You met him after the therapy failed, and he urges me to start writing everything, and that has worked. And today I've healed and cured, fought all my demons, and I'm open about it now.
And speaking to people has helped too. We've got
Yeah.
some footage of you speaking to students at Meridian Technical Charter High School.
For sure.
And that helps you too, to just educate people.
Yeah, educating people, speaking in public, and writing about it. Every time I have to make my problems and my traumas one with me. They have to be part of my life, and not trying to forget them because I could never forget them.
To the rest of you, how have you coped? What have been the major ways that you have coped with the dramatic change of moving here? Has it been faith? Has that helped the most?
Yeah, for me that would be, and I was seeing it more as a challenge, but a dream that I asked for, a dream to come true, to find a future and be able to do what I needed to do, definitely.
What about you, Jamuna?
For me, like, it's nothing that bad.
Hmm?
It's only about, like, we're just looking for our bright future. And if we struggle here for like few months or year or so, it's nothing. Because we already have spent like 17 years in refugee camps. And we're like here and right now. So even though if we have to struggle for like few years, I'll be more than happy to do that.
You led me to a nice segue. We have a quote from you, Fidel, talking to the students at the high school about this very subject. Let's listen to that.
No matter how much troubles you face every day here, no matter how many problems comes your way, or how bad your day may be, and you have to sing the bad day song, you got it so good, better than a million of people. So there shouldn't be anything that should ever push you over the limit to hurt yourself. You should always believe that you got it better, and the next day is going to be even better than ever. So always try to endure your troubles because they are so small compared to a lot of other people out there.
And that's what you find is to encourage people to keep going because of suicide here and everything that you see around you. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that you are one of 60 delegates, you're Idaho's delegates to a new refugee Congress.
Yeah.
Very exciting thing.
Right.
First, the Congress will be doing some education, as you are right now, about refugees. We can see the first initial members here, and then advocating for issues like benefits and things like that.
And also being part of the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, workforce to help them distribute things not only in the United States but also outside of America, and that's one of the few things we are fighting to be part of.
Well, that's quite an honor, and you are now a citizen of the United States.
Indeed.
You have your citizenship, and Jose, you're a citizen.
Yes.
I know is this a goal for both of the two of you as well?
Of course it is.
Yeah, I'm like just waiting for that day. Can't wait too long.
And because you're not a citizen right now of any place, right? Because you're in a refugee.
I just have the permanent resident card of the United States. That's all.
Do you all have the sense that, as Fidel did, that sometimes Americans, people born here, maybe take the country for granted and the freedoms here? Do you have that sense?
Yeah, I do see that as like how there's so many opportunities and how much they can do to their lives as for people like us, refugees or who have had experience of war. We try to make best out of the worst, and when there are ways out of a situation, they kind of go to drugs and suicide and all that.
I find him a great inspiration. A great inspiration not just for other refugees, but even for people who are just coming, the newly coming too. You can make it. You can make it here.
We have about a minute left, or a little bit less. Can you read from one of your poems, just the end? I really like that.
Oh, yeah, indeed, I can do that.
It's called Courage.
It's called It Takes Courage to Be a Refugee, and this is from the first book, Road to Peace. It takes courage to be a refugee. Courage to endure, courage to conquer, courage to tolerate, courage to accept, courage to pursue, courage to achieve, courage to get adapted to a new land, courage to get used to a new culture, courage to learn a new language, and finally, courage to accept your status. Refugees. It takes courage to be a refugee.
Thank you very much for being here. The time goes so short. It also takes courage to come on television and talk about your past, your present, and your future. So I really appreciate it. We'll have a continuation of this discussion on our web extra, so be sure to check out our website for that. I'm Marcia Franklin. Thanks for tuning in to this edition of Dialogue.
Presentation of Dialogue on Idaho Public Television is made possible through the generous support of the Laura Moore Cunningham Foundation, committed to fulfilling the Moore family's legacy of building the great state of Idaho. Check out our website, like us on Facebook, or follow us on Twitter.